DevOps Certifications with Shawn Weisfeld.
The Azure DevOps Podcast is a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Each show brings you hard-hitting interviews with industry experts, innovating better methods, and sharing success stories. Listen on to learn how to increase quality, ship quickly, and operate well. And now your host, Jeffrey Palermo.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Palermo, your humble host, and make sure to check out www.azuredevops.show for past episodes and show notes and links. I'm really excited that lots of people are taking me up for the offer of a complimentary 30-point DevOps inspection in your environment. It's helping a lot of people. Also, if you run a user group and you've gone now to more virtual meetings, I'd love to speak at your group and just email me. And I know a lot of other people would as well. And also, if you're tuning in for the first time to the podcast, the Azure DevOps Podcast is for developers shipping software with Microsoft technologies. And my goal for you and for all development teams is to be able to move fast and deliver quality and run your software systems with confidence. Now, today we have an awesome guest, a longtime friend, and I have Shawn Weisfeld with me. He is a cloud solution architect at Microsoft, and he works on the One Commercial Partner team, helping Microsoft partners architect solutions that run on Azure. And he's a Microsoft certified trainer. He runs the Azure Meetup in Austin, Texas, and two other community websites, southcentralcommunity.com also, where he lists all of the groups and events that he knows about in the region. And he also runs usergroup.tv, where he posts recordings of technical user group meetings and presentations and also conferences, and makes that available for folks to watch for free. Absolutely nothing. So I'm really excited, Shawn, to have you on the show. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Thank you, Jeffrey, for having me.
Fantastic. So, this time that we're in with more and more people working from home, distributed teams, that's nothing new for you.
It isn't. I've been with Microsoft for over 6 years now, and all 6 years of that, I've been working from my off-site office, i.e., my guest bedroom here at the house. It's great. When I started at Microsoft, they handed me a headset and handed me a laptop and said, "Here's your office."
Nice. Now you do so much, but for people who are not in the Texas region or not as familiar with any of your community activities, how did you end up in this type of role? What was your career track along the way that led you to where you are now?
Sure. So I started out my career doing normal line of business application development at a large defense contractor in Florida. And through that work, I got exposure to the local developer community, namely the Orlando.net user group. After a while, I started volunteering at the user group. I saw the value that the user group brought to the community, that networking and that technical knowledge brought to the community. I volunteered with it. I helped run the user group. And I got to meet a lot of folks that worked for Microsoft. Folks at that time were called evangelists. And I decided that was something that I wanted to do, and kept on that path of contributing to the community and building up my skills until I was able to land a role in the premier support team here in Microsoft Services.
Awesome. And you do a lot of just community speaking, even outside your role. And would it be a far stretch to say that if someone invited you to speak to a virtual user group event, that you might consider that?
I would be very open to that possibility. The biggest problem I have is juggling calendar items. I call it my game of Tetris that I play every day with my calendar. But if I know the topic, if it's a topic that I have a passion about, and if it's and if we can make the logistics work out calendaring wise, especially if it's virtual, I'm happy to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, I'll put you on the spot there. But let's talk about the topic at hand. certifications, but not just any certification, DevOps certifications. Now they're fluid, they've changed, but they're still growing, and DevOps products are still growing, and DevOps method adoption. So in general, what's the landscape for certifications in general these days?
So there are a lot of certifications out there from a lot of vendors. There's vendor-specific ones, like, for example, I do a lot of work with folks that are looking to get the Azure DevOps certification. So there's other vendor-specific ones. There's also generalized certifications and memberships in DevOps processes like Agile and things of that nature, and certifications you get around those types of techniques as opposed to a specific technology.
Okay. Do you have any data or any sense of, as a percentage of the developer population, what percent are getting a certification and how that's changed over the last 10 years or so?
So I don't have that data. I do see more and more of a demand for certification. At the end of the day, our jobs are getting more complex. The tools are getting more complex. There's more interactions, and certifications provide a great vehicle for folks to, quote unquote, prove that they know or have expertise in a certain area. And makes it a lot easier for somebody in HR to check the box when you're looking for that promotion or looking for that new role, to say, yeah, this resume is a resume that I need to forward to the hiring manager. This person at least knows their stuff enough to be able to take some time from their hiring manager. We just finished a round of interviews for my team here at Microsoft. We had one job opening, and we had over 100 applicants for one job opening.
Wow.
So anything you can do to help set your resume apart is something that can help you get through that shuffle of being that 1 in 100, that diamond in the rough.
You make a good point. Anecdotally, I hear some more senior developers kind of say, "Oh, I don't need to worry about certifications anymore. I already know this stuff, and I'm senior, I'm experienced." But you make a good point that it's just one more point of differentiation when you're applying in a group with a job, and I guess the argument of you don't need the certification. Well, it should be that much more easier just to knock out the test.
Well, and that's what I see. So I see two groups of folks that are taking certifications. There's the folks that are new to the technology, that are using the certification to ramp on that technology and then have that proof point that they know that material. There's also the more experienced folks that are going to take the certification, typically with less of a ramp up period, with less studying and whatnot going into it, because they do this stuff on a daily basis. And then they get that badge, they get that check mark that says, yes, they know that material. And I know for me, I've seen that when I go out and speak to a customer, they'll go look at my LinkedIn profile and see, hey, what credentials does this person have to tell me how to architect my solution, or to provide guidance on how to architect my solution. So whether you're in a consulting role or something like me, where I'm doing more of a pre-salesy kind of thing, it's always good to have that accreditation to kind of back up the words that you're saying, to give you that leg to stand on when you're going in to talk to a customer or a partner. So it's more than just, I need to get a new job, I'm going to go get this certification to make it through HR. It's also every day we're being assessed by our customers, our peers, and I think having that certification can help in that conversation.
Yeah, it was recent. Some of the new Azure certifications were coming around, and my employer's gold partner status in cloud and DevOps requires you to have a certain number of certifications. And even as the chief architect of ClearMeasure, I looked at some of the entry level certifications related to Azure that the partnership requirements are, And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go and do one of these certifications. It's the entry level stuff, but I'm going to do it. And so even going through a practice test, hey, I learned something. I mean, just certain details. And it kind of led me to realize that, you know what? My knowledge is pretty darn light when it comes to Azure Active Directory synchronization with on-premise, because in the custom software world, I haven't had to go deep in that, but it really helped me round out what it's doing, just so that I have a good understanding of it, even if I'm not going to be doing it every day.
Well, the funny thing is you mentioned that specific piece of technology. That was my weakest area when I took AZ300, the Azure certification. Because I'm just like you. I come from the world of application development.
Yeah.
We don't set up synchronization between Active Directories every day. So that's one of the things that I really like about these certification exams is they test you on the breadth of a piece of technology. We tend to use the pieces that we know and the pieces that we're familiar with, and it's kind of good from a forcing function perspective to be required to go out and get a level of depth in the whole breadth of the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I could my recent experience, I can vouch for it having a positive impact on me, knowing what I didn't know and identifying some areas where I was weak. So I think there's definitely people who are getting into the field, and certification forces them to really learn and practice and get their skills up. The industry is growing. You have so many more developers in there. How many people are getting certification, and what's it doing for them?
So I don't have specifics on like the number of certifications that we issue here at Microsoft, but a lot of folks are getting these certifications because they like we spoke about, maybe they're looking for a new job, maybe they're looking to go to the next level. Right, they're looking for that salary bump. Maybe they're looking to, like me, looking to show that, hey, I have this experience. Or like any consultant, when you walk into a partner, show that you have this experience. Be able to quantify my reputation around that knowledge of that topic.
The Azure DevOps Podcast is sponsored by ClearMeasure, a software engineering firm and Microsoft Gold partner, empowering development teams to be their best. ClearMeasure equips developers with the DevOps tools, methods, and automation necessary to focus on building their applications, rather than wrestling with builds, deployments, or environments. Click clear-measure.com to see whether a DevOps implementation is for you.
Hey, this is Jeffrey. Do you ever wonder if your software project is on the right path? It's really common for software projects to experience delays, to have the quality not where it needs to be, or have the team spending more time maintaining the software than you really should. In my practice, we know the challenges implementing all parts of DevOps, and it can make your head spin how many things you have to think about, and somewhere in your gut, you know that something's missing. So I've created a comprehensive 30-point DevOps inspection, reviewing your current process, methods, tools, source control, build integration, the various levels of testing, provisioning and maintaining environments, deploying, logging, telemetry, everything you need to think about in a high throughput, high productivity DevOps environment. And it really helps you gain peace of mind knowing that you're on the right track. And we are offering some more of our really popular 30-point DevOps inspections, and it's normally a $5,000 value, but I'm giving it away for free for my podcast listeners. Just send me an email, jeffrey@clear-measure.com. That's Jeffrey, and I'd be happy to inspect your existing DevOps environment, whether you use Azure DevOps Services, Octopus Deploy, TeamCity, any number of tools, because there are a lot out there. But what's important is that you have a complete and automated DevOps environment put together the right way. So get a second pair of eyes. Send me an email. So give us the rundown. What are the relevant certifications in the DevOps space?
So from a Microsoft perspective, we have our certification for Azure DevOps is what we call AZ400, which is what we call an expert level certification. So which will check all of the DevOps bits, specifically relating to Azure. So it layers on top of other Azure certifications, whether it's the Azure Administrator or the Azure Developer certification. So you'll go out and get one of those certifications, and then you can layer this this focus area of DevOps on top of it.
Okay. And so that's expert level. What types of things do you need to be up to snuff on to go for that certification?
So the certification covers the breadth of the DevOps platform. Specifically, it focuses on using the Azure DevOps tooling. So everything from designing a DevOps strategy to figuring out how to implement a DevOps development process, CI, CD, dependency management, deploying application infrastructure via DevOps to Azure, as well as closing that loop with the continuous feedback. So that we've all seen that infinity slide with the circle and the never-ending process.
I hate that.
Yeah, I know you
terrible.
do. I know you do.
We're supposed to bring the teams together, not preserve the two teams. Sorry, now I'm off on a tangent.
See, I set you up for that one. But the certification itself tests all the pieces of that, so that you have a good breadth knowledge of all of those pieces.
Okay, cool. And so, do you just go in and take a test, or are there training paths that someone can just kind of go in and know when they're ready?
Yeah, so there's a number of different resources that you can use to prepare. And so you can just go in and take the test. There's no requirement that you do any preparing before it. However, the test isn't free. So going in and just taking it cold might be a good thing. You might have bought a test package that includes a retake so that you get a free try again. So if you bought that kind of a package, you might want to just go in and take it cold. If you're an expert in the area, maybe you just go and take it cold, and then use the retake as your backup. If you're paying for the exam or your boss is paying for the exam, you might want to do some prep work to make sure that you're not going to go in there, that you've done at least a little bit of due diligence to prepare. So there's a number of different resources that we have available for free, like Microsoft Docs, like the learning paths that we have available out on Microsoft Learn. There's a number of instructor-led trainings that you can purchase, as well as a number of like third-party resources like Pluralsight, where you can take entire courses in the material, or like you had mentioned earlier, there's practice tests available out on partner websites like MeasureUp in order to help you study for the exam. Okay. One of the things I want to call out on a couple of points on that, right? You can study as much or as little as you feel is needed. The exam, I rattled off all the different skills that are measured in the exam. When I'm studying for the exam, I literally go to that skills measured section, and there's bullet points about each one of those skills. I will go research every one of those skills on Azure Docs. I will put together myself a list of all of that material, and I will read through it. That's frankly the way I learn, by doing that type of an exercise. Maybe I'm going to pull in some videos from Channel 9 or Azure Fridays or something like that to help augment all of that type of reading. That skills measured section is the list of everything that's on the exam. It's really where I focus my attention on. If it has a bullet point that says you need to know this, you probably need to know that, right? It'd be a good idea to go read about that. The other key, like you were talking about earlier with that identity example, is you have to pass the exam. You have to have a passing score in every one of those sections of the exam. So if you know nothing about continuous delivery, you can't get a 0 on the continuous delivery section of the exam and still pass the exam. You need to at least pass every piece of the exam.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because so many people are not going to testing centers at the moment. So what's the story for being able to do one of these certifications from home?
So we do have, and we always have had, a way of taking tests from home. So what you set up your machine at home, you'll use just your laptop or just your desktop computer. You can't have like external monitors. You can't have other screens. You can't have words on your walls. So there's a lot. They'll have you take your webcam and look around your room while you're taking the exam. They'll have the webcam pointed at you. You can't have interruptions. You can't have bathroom breaks. So it is just like taking the exam in person, but you get to take it from home. So with all of the virus stuff going on, we've beefed up that system in order to be able to handle the increased demand.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, we've also changed a number of the policies. Like, for example, you said you needed to get certified for your partner status. So we've extended some of those dates in order to give folks a little bit more time to complete that work. And I shared with you an aka.ms link that'll be in the show notes, where has a list of a whole bunch of information. One of those links in that list is a list to all the details about all of the rules that we've kind of bend or extended because of the whole virus situation.
Okay. Now, I just popped over to AZ400 and it looks like the retail price is $165, which seems kind of normal for Microsoft certification tests. They don't seem to vary too much, but there's a discount if I went to the Ignite conference. Do you have any idea how much of a discount they're giving for past attendees to last year's Ignite?
I don't know.
It doesn't publish.
But there are many different ways to get discounts. So I would encourage folks, especially folks that work in organizations that have a Microsoft account team, to talk to that Microsoft account team and find out what they have available to them. There are definitely discounts available, but it varies based on the company you work at.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. So, if you're at home, then video training is definitely going to be your friend. And so there we have that Pluralsight one. It will be nice. What other, someone's going to try to take it from home and just go for it. What are your top tips?
So I have a number of tips. And especially for the DevOps certification, because you need to take the prerequisite certs to get the DevOps one, since it layers on top of the regular Azure ones. So I would look at that entire exam hierarchy, see what all those prereqs are. I would also look at the fact that we're always updating these exams. The cloud and these services is an ever-changing platform, so we're always updating exams. So look at the exams that you're interested in. Look at if that exam is getting a refresh, when that refresh is happening. How does that fit into your timeline with your studying and when you plan on take the exam? I also, as far as for me, what works well is I always schedule my exam. I schedule a time to take it. For me, that's a forcing function for me to actually make the time to go study, as opposed to getting distracted with all the little different side projects that we all tend to get distracted with. I also like actually carving out time on my calendar. I will put a block of time on my calendar and say, hey, from 1 to 2 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's my study time, right? I am not giving up that study time. I need to invest in myself as much as I need to make sure that I'm investing in the business and my customers.
Okay.
You can take the exams from home. Exams have all kinds of questions. Many of the exams now have hands-on components where they'll actually get you into the tool and you actually can deploy stuff in the Azure portal and actually work through stuff instead of just like multiple choice kind of questions. Some other things that I keep in mind is always I try to answer every question. They don't take off points for guessing. A blank answer is just as wrong as no answer as a bad guess. You want to keep track of as you're taking the exam, what the rules are for that block of questions. So, for example, we'll sometimes say, "Hey, at the end of this block of questions, you can't go back and change your previous answers." Or you might be able to go back and change your previous answers. So you might learn something in question 10 that will help you answer question 9. If you can go back and change your answer to question 9, that might be something good to know about.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of folks run into trouble with is those practice tests. The practice tests, there's a lot of folks that are putting practice tests out online. I've seen people getting mixed results from some of those practice test sites because some of those practice test sites are getting those practice tests by actually just like sending somebody in to go memorize all the questions. And that might have worked 10 years ago. That doesn't work anymore because nowadays we have a pool of questions. We're rotating those questions. You're getting questions at random out of the pool. So it's much, much harder for them to like memorize all the questions. Moreover, I've seen them actually have like the wrong answer in some of those practice tests. So I really focus on the practice tests from MeasureUp because I know those are good.
Gotcha.
So I think the last big tip I have is there's a cut score to pass the test, which is 700 points. You not only have to get that amount of points, like I said earlier, you have to get enough points in every one of the sections. And it's worth noting that a 700 isn't like it's 1,000 points on the test and you got to get a 70%, right? You have to get 700 points. There might be questions that are worth more or less points. You might have a 10-part question that's only worth 1 point. So it really depends on which questions you're getting out of that pool and how you answer them as to whether you get to that 700 point score to pass.
And how many total points are possible?
It varies based on the questions. So it's not like a 70%.
Oh, that's right, because it comes from a pool of questions. So you may get a version of the test that has a different number of possible points.
Yep.
Gotcha.
definitely. And the other thing that I worry about that I see people. So there's the type A people that we work with that want to get a perfect score.
Mm-hmm.
Your perfect score is just as good as my 701.
Yeah.
Right. They're both passing. It's a pass fail thing. You either get it or you don't.
Right. There's no certification GPA.
Yes, exactly. I like that. Can I use that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. No certification, good GPA. I like that.
Awesome. All right. Well, so we got AZ400 is kind of the king of the castle when it comes to Azure DevOps. Do you know anything about the story of the DevOps capabilities integrating GitHub? I know it's a separate run company, but owned by Microsoft. Are there anything in place or in the works?
So as far as certifications go, they are working on updates to the DevOps certification to be more inclusive of the GitHub stuff. Mm-hmm. Moreover, the product is changing now that we have GitHub in the tent. So as the product changes, the certification will change behind it. I don't have any specific like dates on when AZ400 would get a refresh or they would add more GitHub-y type stuff to it. But it is definitely something that there are a lot of smart people working on as we speak. But since there's no dates out on the AZ400 landing page right now, I would anticipate that it would be not something that's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months kind of thing. It's going to be something maybe a little bit further out, but don't quote me on dates, even though you are recording this. So you've quoted me on dates. I've quoted myself. But typically when we issue a new version, when we update an exam, with a larger update, more than just like rotating questions in and out. We will give folks about 90 days notice that, hey, this exam is getting updated. Here's the replacement exam. And then we'll have a certain period of time, typically where we'll run both exams in parallel, where you can take either the old exam or the new exam, and still get the Azure Certified DevOps Expert credential.
Got it. All right. So there's a lot of great stuff on certifications. What's new with you? What's next for you, Mr. Weisfeld?
There's new stuff all the time. Next week, we're having a Azure DevOps meetup. We're going to have some folks from the Azure Blueprint team talking about that. That will be very interesting. The meetups, many of the meetups are still going on. They're all going on virtually now due to our friendly neighborhood virus. So everybody's staying safe, but we're still continuing to learn. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff coming down the pipe. There's a lot of new stuff that Microsoft is releasing that we're putting out on the internet and just telling folks about, since we can't have conferences. A lot of our conferences are going virtual. And at the end of the day, we're continuing to run. We're up and open for business. We might not be meeting within 6 feet of each other, but we're still getting the job done.
Awesome. When can people register in some form for however build might happen? Do you have any intel on that?
I do not.
Okay.
I do know that we just moved Ignite to virtual.
Well, that's later in the fall too.
Yeah.
The build is usually May-ish timeframe the last few years.
Yeah. So yeah, I can build.
Right.
2020 build Microsoft.
Right. I mean, we know it's not happening. We just have the sign up for updates link on the build website, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are working feverishly to make something happen on May 19th, because that for developers, I mean, that's the main Microsoft training event of the year.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, what I've seen is actually a move. Even before this virus thing, I've seen a move for our conferences tend to moving to smaller in-person audiences with a larger virtual reach, giving more people access to the content that maybe don't have the budget to hop on a plane and spend a week at a convention center. So we've seen a larger invest in those virtual experiences. I think with the virus, you'll definitely see a doubling down of that. So yeah, it looks like Build lost its in-person component, but is still going to happen as a virtual event, same like Ignite.
I think this is a great opportunity for the Microsoft Teams team to extend the feature set to not just be virtual meeting or virtual team, but virtual event, which is a whole nother level on top of a virtual meeting.
Well, you say that, and Monday we've been doing virtual hands-on events using Microsoft Teams, both internally and with partners for years. And due to the virus thing, Monday we took that content and presented it as a webcast for partners so that we can train partners how to deliver that type of an event to their customers. So I will actually include a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah,
I will add it to my list.
As much as Zoom is getting a lot of press just for kind of being free and accessible, and just type in a URL, no account, and you're in. So it's easy to get into. It's a whole nother level to go beyond just a meeting to and it's not even, it's beyond even a webinar. Having a conference breakout session. So it's another level on top of all this video telephony that I think it's time for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And frankly, the stuff that we're doing is just built into Teams, right? We're not reinventing that wheel. Mm-hmm. We've just figured out a technique that works for us. Your mileage will vary however you deliver events. But it works for us to deliver these types of events because we really want groups of folks to get hands-on with the material. And a webcast is great. A podcast is great. These are great face-forward types of ways of consuming material. But I don't know about you. For me, I learn better when I have a problem and I need to solve it.
Yeah.
And that typically works better when I'm going to solve it with a team where I can tap Jeffrey on the shoulder and hey, I'm having this problem. Can you help me figure this out? Have you run into this before? And that kind of a thing. And to be able to do that in a virtual environment is a super engaging way to learn.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, thanks for sharing what the state of the art is on DevOps certifications. I appreciate you coming on the show.
No problem. Anytime. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And we'll include the links to the DevOps meetup and the other things that were mentioned in the show notes if you happen to miss those, as well as how to get in touch with Shawn. And thank you all. Stay safe and keep shipping.
You've been listening to the Azure DevOps Podcast, a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Go to www.azuredevops.show for show notes and other episodes. On behalf of your host, Jeffrey Palermo, and our sponsors, thanks for listening, and may God bless you.